Mark Henkel, he's our Area 6 governor, he's our club coach, and he's here as the Running Hill Toastmasters Club's newest member. He is an ACG, Advanced Communicator Gold. He's an ALB 2 times, which means he's achieved the Advanced Leader Bronze twice. At the District Fall Conference on November 2nd and 4th, Mark received many awards. He received his 3rd Triple Crown, an award for sponsoring 5 or more new members last year. He received the Allen E. Seavey Award for sponsoring the most new members in all of District 45, which meant Mark sponsored 18 people total last year. He also received the Al Ferguson Award for leading the Woodford's Toastmasters Club to achieve all 10 DCP goals last year. And the biggest one of all was that Mark was awarded the District 45 Outstanding Toastmaster of the Year. Clearly, Mark has been dedicated to learning what Toastmasters can teach us. As he has been learning those many lessons, he discovered that one of the important skills that we all need is actually hardly ever taught in our meetings: how to create your own introductions for your own speeches. In his presentation tonight, Mark seeks to impart what he has learned about this important skill. His objective tonight is research a topic, and he has asked for 5 to 7 minutes. As he presents speech project number 7 from the Competent Communicator Manual, please help me give a warm welcome to Mark Henkel, presenting his speech titled, Introduce Yourself.
Thank you, Mr. Toastmaster, fellow members, honored guests. Introduce yourself. Now, I am not talking about the icebreaker, where you give your first speech and introduce who you are to us. I'm talking about building your own introduction for when you give a speech. Indeed, whenever you give a speech, you should make your own introduction. Professional speakers do it. And you'll even notice on our website, when you sign up to do a speech, there's a location for you to actually put in your own introduction. But few of us know how to do an introduction. It's not something that's really taught as often as it could be. I'm hoping that at the end of this presentation, you'll have an epiphany about it, and that you will get why it's important to have an introduction and for you to build your own introduction. After all, who knows what your speech is going to be about better than you? Nobody. You know the most. So clearly you are in the best position to write your own introduction. So we're going to look at some resources of how to go about doing that. First, I'm going to talk about what Toastmasters says about what an introduction is. Then we're going to look at some ideas of how to go about building your own introduction from different resources. And then we're going to look at what to actually do when you write the actual introduction itself. So let's first start with what Toastmasters has to tell us. Toastmasters says that an introduction should be like a ritual, a ceremony, and it achieves a number of things. It is transitional. It guides thinking. It adds power, and it sets the mood. Think about the timeline in general. In the meeting or special event, somebody was talking about something, and now you're about to give your speech as you go through the timeline. It has to transition from whatever was going on before to transition to what your speech is about. It needs to guide thinking so that the audience knows what to look for and what's coming, because they were thinking other things. Now what's actually going to be coming in your speech? It adds power. When the introducer establishes the credibility of you coming to give a speech, then when you come up to give it, it has all that much more power because your credentials and your reason for giving the speech are given. It adds power. And then finally, it sets the mood. Especially in a situation where perhaps someone first was giving a heartbreaking speech that was full of sadness. And all of a sudden you're about to give a speech that's humorous. The introduction gives the transition that sets the mood so now the audience is ready to enjoy the laughter of your speech. So this is what Toastmasters gives us as guidance for what an introduction is and why we need to approach having it. So now we're going to look at some resources on how to go about actually building your introduction. And there are different ways to go about it. The first resource I'm going to refer to is speechcoachforexecutives.com. They use a system that many speech coaches provide and go through. It's called the TIS method. Topic, importance, and speaker. Generally, they're recommending that you first mention the topic. Start with mentioning what the topic of the speech is, then the importance. Why is this speech important to the audience, and why is the speaker the important person to be giving this speech? And then finally, the last of all, give the speaker's name. That's their recommendation, the TIS, Topic, Importance, Speaker Method. Another resource, NoSweatSpeaking.com, is another speaking coach company. And it's actually from two men who both have the same exact last name of A-L-L-A-N, Allen and Allen. And they call their methodology the Allen and Allen way. And they're also both distinguished Toastmasters. They kind of take that TIS, and where the other one says, say the speaker's name at the end, they start it at the beginning. And they say, first say the speaker's name and the description and the character, the experiences, the qualifications of why the speaker is the person to speak. Then they say, recommend, do the topic. Then they actually say, do the title, then the speaker, so that the speaker's name is what pulls the speaker up to the lectern. So that's their methodology from NoSweatSpeaking.com. Now myself, I actually have an incorporation of those ideas, and I call it the who, why, what method. Kind of keeps it simple for me. You know, we've got these TISs and all that other business, but for me it's who, why, what. And it's basically first start off with the who. Tell who is the person speaking. What is their qualifications and credentials to be giving the speech they're about to give. Then the why. Why is this speech important to the audience? And why is the speaker the one qualified to be giving this speech? And then finally the what. What is the speech? That's the topic, what it's about, but not too much because you don't want to give away the speech itself, of course. And then, of course, in Toastmasters, we have other elements that you also have to add. And those elements are, of course, the manual name, the project number, what the project objective title is, the number of minutes, and then finally ending it off with, please help welcome the speaker's name, giving the presentation called the speech title. And then that begins. That's my particular way. But you're welcome to use any of the different resources, any of the different ways. You'll see that these different methodologies all incorporate the general same principles. So now that we've looked at that, now you're ready to actually write out your introduction. When you're ready to do that, you want to remember to write it, time it, indent it, and print it. First you've got to write it, but write it in the third person. The introducer is not going to be saying, I, me, my, as if it was you. You need to write your introduction in the language that the introducer is going to be saying it. So write it in the third person. Time it. It should be less than 30, 60, or 90 seconds. Definitely keep it under 90 seconds. So practice reading through the introduction and make sure that it's not too long. You don't need the introduction to be outdoing the speech itself. It's there to be the introduction. Indent it. If you have a series of items that need to be listed, have it listed as bullet items so that it's indented, so that the introducer doesn't have to scan through all the different things in a paragraph. And then finally print it, and print it in large font, 15 point. Make it easy for the person doing the introduction. So we've seen now what Toastmasters says, we've seen what some other resources show about how to go about building, and we have seen what to do when we actually write it. I want to leave you with another resource. Publicwords.com explains when you go to put together your introduction, remember that a good introduction answers these questions. Why this speaker on this subject for this audience? So when it comes time to give a speech, now you know what to do. Introduce yourself. It's Toastmasters.